Coquet Island is a proper little gem of a paddle. It's a short, relatively easy trip, but man does it pack a punch. It's what I would call my backyard paddle. It's only about 30 minutes from home. It's one I can nip to just after work or before work. It has very little to worry about in terms of tidal movement, and unless you pick a day with big conditions, there's not a lot to worry about on this paddle. As sea kayakers, we can't resist going round something, so that's always a draw. But this paddle just packs so much in terms of wildlife. It just makes it an absolute winner, and one that I'll never get sick of. I was talking recently with a friend about this trip, and this person's covered some serious miles around the UK, and they said that this paddle is pretty much, mile for mile, one of the best paddles in the UK. I have to say that at this time of year, I definitely agree with them. This small piece of rock provides a home to some 70,000 nesting seabirds, and it's quite a sight to take in. This paddle can be done from a couple of places. You can do it from Togston Beach at the north end of Druridge Bay. All you have to do is paddle out round the headland, and then directly north of you lies the island. However, most times this paddle is done from the Coquet Shore-based club on the River Coquet itself. This is a fantastic little club with lovely people and fantastic facilities. Parking is ample, and there's a lovely little easy ramp down onto the river. From here, it's a nice easy paddle down the river to the fishing town of Amble. Amble's a beautiful little place. It's known as the friendliest port. In 1935, the Council of Amble sent the RMS Mauritania a message on its last and final voyage to the wrecker's yard. Still the finest ship on the seas, they said. The Mauritania replied with greetings to the last and friendliest port in England. The name stuck, and Amble still proudly uses it to this day. At this time of year, Coquet Island is home to thousands of puffins. This comical looking bird has its own nickname, the Clown of the Seas. And a group of puffins is actually known as a circus. The adult birds return to their colonies in late March or early April, initially collecting in large rafts floating out at sea. They finally create their nests in soft soils, often using the holes of other birds or rabbits. They lay a single egg, and this is incubated for 36 to 45 days. One of the world's favourite birds, this species is unfortunately in decline worldwide. World populations are falling, and with half of the UK's population located at just a few nesting sites, this species unfortunately finds itself on the red list, meaning that it has the highest conservation priority. Adult birds desert their young just before they're ready to leave their nest. The timing of breeding is highly synchronised in puffin colonies, and so the departure can take just a few days. Northumberland's rare in that it has two very important puffin nesting sites, the Farne Islands and Coquet Island. There are some 60,000 birds located across these two sites. It really is a treat to be able to experience these birds up close and personal, either seeing them flying overhead to and from their burrows with sand eels in their mouths, or just drifting past rafts of them sitting peacefully on the surface of the water. Recently, with lockdown restrictions easing, there's been a real increase in the number of paddleboarders and kayakers that are heading out to the island, and the RSPB has had to put out a warning. Sadly, some kayakers and paddleboarders just get too close to the island. This can scare the birds off their nest, which isn't good and isn't good for the young that might, be on that nest. Coquet Island is actually a nature reserve, so you're not allowed to land there at all unless it's an emergency. So it's really important to bear that in mind as well. Myself and all the people that I paddle with, the last thing that we want to do is disturb wildlife. So we always stick, a good couple of 100 meters off the island so that we don't disturb any seals or nesting birds. There's just no stopping the seals from coming and investigating these brightly coloured sea kayaks, and they're incredibly curious and friendly. Some of the most curious and friendly seals I've ever seen. They come incredibly close these days. They try and pull the toggles on the boats, even jumping and trying to play with the end of your paddle, trying to bite the end of your paddle and play with it. They often follow us back towards Amble and surf between the kayaks. The paddle itself is pretty straightforward. Obviously you've got, sea conditions and wind to think about like you do with every paddle. But other than that, there's not a huge amount in the way of tidal flow around this island. There's a little bit, but not too much. The only thing that you've really got to watch out for is that there's a long reef that extends off the north end, or North Steel. And this can attract some quite heavy breaking seas if there is a swell running. So you've just got to pay attention to that and either give it a wide berth or, time it well to kind of get through between these swells. Coquet Island is just a brilliant trip, whether it be before work, after work, on a weekend, it can be done in a couple of hours easily, with plenty of time to enjoy the wildlife. And whether it be, a glorious sunset like you're seeing, or whether it's fogged in and the foghorn's going, it just always offers so much, and it's just one of my favourite paddles.